America's classic country station, Sirius 35, The Roadhouse, now presents a very special, exclusive interview and performance with Glen Campbell featuring Jimmy Webb. We were lucky enough to recruit one of our DJs from Outlaw Country to host Glen and Jimmy, so without further ado, here's The Rig Rocker with Glen Campbell and Jimmy Webb from the exclusive Sirius sessions on The Roadhouse.
Hello, this is Jeremy Tepper for Sirius Satellite Radio. You may know me as the Rig Rocker over in Outlaw Country, where I can be heard mornings, Monday through Friday. But today I'll be hanging out here in the Roadhouse with one of my all-time favorite artists. And I'd like to welcome to the Roadhouse Mr. Glen Campbell.
Thank you.
How you doing, Glen?
I'm doing wonderful.
Thanks for coming by today, and you brought your guitar with you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Maybe we can put that to work right now. You want to play a tune for us?
Yeah, this kind of started a lot of things off. It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. And it's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. It keeps you ever gentle on my mind. And it's not clinging to the rocks and ivy planted on their columns now that bind me, or something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's just knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk along some railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and for hours you're just gentle on my mind. Or I'll dip my cup of soup back from the gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard, with my beard a rough and coal pile and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cupped hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waving from the back roads by the rivers of my memory, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind. And Sirius, you're gentle on my mind.
Absolutely fabulous. Gentle on My Mind. Your very first hit from 1967.
Mm-hmm. It sure was.
And that was written by the great John Hartford.
Yeah. John Hartford. God rest his soul. He was really a good guy, had his own thing going. He liked to, he had his song and dance, and he'd play the banjo and dance. He actually brought the plywood, amplified plywood with him where he played, and that was his rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
When he played banjo and guitar.
Decked out in the top hat.
Yeah, decked out in the top hat.
How did you hook up with John originally?
I found him through the Smothers Brothers when we did the Good Time Hour. He was one of the packages in the Summer Brothers Smother show that I hosted.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to talk about the Good Time Hour, and he became a regular on your program as well. And that song was, after you recorded it, was covered by so many artists.
It was. A bunch.
What are some of your favorite versions, other than your own?
Well, I don't have one. John's was the first one, naturally, but and it's knowing that your door's always open. John did it in his own imitable way, but when I hear a song or a singer sing a song, I'm not necessarily listening to the way the singer is singing the song. I'm really listening to see how good the song is, and then that some songs you can't mess up. Anybody can sing.
That's a great one. Tammy Wynette actually had she turned it around a little bit, and Sinatra, a great version of that, and many, many, many others.
That's amazing. And Tammy, what a great singer she was. Wow.
Well, Glen Campbell, you've had the great fortune of recording so many classic songs that, and turning them into classic recordings that just seem to live forever.
Yeah, that was. I think the body of that is not only were the songs fabulous, but the way Jimmy arranged everything. When Jimmy Webb, he writes it. I think he's got an arrangement in his head as soon as the song is done. He can think about where he can put this or where he can put that. Jimmy's the only guy that I ever knew that used augmented fourths in his music, and they fit.
And who was actually producing those records in the studio in Capitol Studios? These were all done in the Capitol Tower in Hollywood.
Al Delore was he was the guy that was the A&R man there, but Jimmy and I were producing. We did what we wanted to do. We had the final say on everything.
And you'd been an old hand at Capitol Studios for quite a while by the time the hits started coming in the mid and late 60s, and you first arrived in L.A. in about, 1961 maybe?
Yeah, 62. 61, yeah. I was with the Champs for a while, the road band Champs. And then that band was Seals and Crofts. Bob Morris was in the band. But it was, studio work was what I really got my teeth into. Because I found something that I could really learn a lot from by listening to all the great players, the great producers. I got to work with most of them, and you can really see, which ones can chew the hay.
Well, you were able to demonstrate your versatility playing on sessions ranging from the Beach Boys to Sinatra to some of Merle Haggard's early sessions as well.
Right. I sang harmony. I told him Merle sessions were good money. I got paid for playing rhythm on a track. They used to do the track, and they wouldn't have the singer there. But they started charging them another $30 a session if they didn't sing it. And that was great because none of the Phil Spector stuff had any singing on them until it was finished. So really, and then they put the vocal on, which is a way to do it, I would imagine, because you can hear everything that way. But it was the session days were really, really cool. I got to play with some of the greatest musicians in the world. In fact, they were. Los Angeles I think is the hotbed of incredible musicians.
Well, it's amazing to think of some of the great country records that were actually recorded.
Oh yeah,
in L.A. even before the '60s, in the '50s, going back to the Cliffy Stone era, and Merle Travis and Tennessee Ernie Ford, and who you actually made a great record with Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that was a good
Ernie
one.
sings and Glenn picks.
Yeah, I actually got to do a session too live from someplace in Vegas with Tex Williams. Tex Williams, yeah. I'm a fellow with a heart of gold. It was in '62. We did live from where the Bunions, where they have the gambling place.
The Gold Coast, I believe. Tex Williams and his Western Caravan.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. One of the earliest country live albums.
Yeah, it was. That was cool.
Great band, yeah. What about Merle Travis, though? He was a presence on the L.A. scene for country pickers, right?
Oh, yeah. Merle was, boy. He was one of the better guitar players in the world, I think. Had his own style. You knew it was Merle when you heard him.
Great songwriter, too.
Yeah. Oh, fabulous.
For our Roadhouse listeners, we were just talking about your Merle Haggard sessions. Can you reel off some of the Merle Haggard tunes that you actually play on the recordings that we play constantly here?
Down every road, there's always one more city.
I sang you my part.
Down every road, there's always one more city.
That was my part. That was the harmony.
So you were doing harmonies as well as guitar parts?
Yeah.
Lead and rhythm?
I played rhythm because the guy I played with Merle got... He did all the lead stuff.
The great Roy Nichols, of course.
Yeah, Roy. I played rhythm and sang. We just played rhythm while Merle sang, and then Bonnie and I overdubbed the harmonies. And it really worked out well that way. And I made a lot more money that way. You get paid for the tracking, and then you get paid for the singing. So that was cool.
So let's go back a little bit further, actually, because you grew up in Arkansas, Billstown, Arkansas. Is that where you were born?
Yeah.
And one of 12 children.
Right.
So you had country in your blood?
Oh, yeah, a lot. I grew up on Grand Ole Opry. Whatever we could get on the radio, whether it was big band or... wasn't a lot of country stuff around that was on radio. It was all like, Glenn Miller... big band stuff, and then the big band artists of those days. And then when they started adding a little more country, I had more variety that way, it seemed like.
What about country music around you? Were any members of your family musical, or
Yeah.
Picking parties going on nearby, or
They all could play.
barn dances or whatnot.
My Uncle Boo was the one that got me started in it, basically. He was the guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a very good one, too. And I actually went around with him because my brothers never advanced away from GDC kind of thing, But Boo and I, we kind of went on out, and I started listening to Django Reinhardt when I went to Albuquerque.
Mm.
And my big influence then was Django Reinhardt, because I think, unarguably, I don't think there's a guitar player in the world that wouldn't recognize Reinhardt as the best guitar player.
Mm.
If they did, then people would know that they didn't know that much.
And he was working with a handicap, too.
Yeah. It's just fused together. That the little finger. Mine is becoming that way. Maybe I'll play better if I get that little finger out of the way. But Reinhardt was definitely. Stephen Grappelli was definitely the fiddle player.
Yeah.
Violinist.
Do you remember your first guitar?
Yeah, Sears and Roebuck, about $7.50.
Mm-hmm.
Had the cowboy down here with a rope up. And that's what I learned to play on. And it was something like, Did you ever sleep at the foot of the bed when the weather was whistling cold, and the wind was whistling around the house, and the moon was yellow as gold? You had to give your good warm mattress up to Aunt Lizzie and Uncle Fred. Too darn many kid folks on a bad night, so you went to the foot of the bed. Those are good songs.
Yeah, little Jimmy Dickens right
Jimmy
there.
Dickens.
Yeah, you betcha. And you mentioned that you moved to Albuquerque, and that's when you first started working as a musician professionally. And,
Right.
Primarily live.
Well, I have radio 5 days a week. Dick Bill and the Sandia Mountain Boys. Yeah. It was riding down the trail to Albuquerque, saddlebags all filled with beans and jerky, heading for K Circle B, the TV ranch for you and me. They buckled. That was one of it. We didn't actually. Oh yeah, it was like I think it was Heading West. That was our theme song. It was oh wow, Speedy West and
Jimmy Bryant.
Jimmy Bryant. Yeah. That was our theme song for the good Noonday Roundup.
And you had a pedal steel player helping you
Had
out?
a pedal steel player.
Wow.
Well, it was a good band too. Everybody really kicked.
Did you guys have the cowboy outfits? And
Oh
hats
yeah,
and-
man, had them hats on, cowboy boots. You could kill cockroaches in the corner with them, man.
And then I guess rock and roll came along.
Yeah, it did.
Did that have an effect on you?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was
Yeah.
raw, and some of it was really, it was a lot of noise, but it felt good. That's the way I kind of described early rock and roll.
Right, very cathartic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to get back to some music here, and you mentioned Albuquerque, and the Southwest has figured largely in your history, both professionally and personally. And one of your biggest hits, a song written by Jimmy Webb. Could you play it for us? By the Time I Get to Phoenix.
What key did I do in?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And lo and behold, Jimmy Webb is in our studio. You're in the Roadhouse, Sirius Satellite Radio.
By the time I get to Phoenix, she'll be rising. She'll find the note I left hanging on her door, and she'll laugh when she reads the part that says I'm leaving, 'cause I left that girl so many times before. By the time I make good old Albuquerque, she'll be working. She'll probably stop at lunch and give me a call. But she'll just hear that phone keep on ringing. Oh, that's all. By the time I make Oklahoma, she'll be sleeping. She'll turn softly and call my name out low, and she'll cry just to think I'd really leave her. Though time and time I tried to tell her so, she just didn't know. I would really go. No, she didn't know I'd go.
Yeah.
You're in the Roadhouse, Sirius 35. This is Jeremy Tevert with my very special guest, Glen Campbell. And we've also welcomed to our studio the man who wrote that song, Jimmy Webb,
Yeah.
on the piano.
Thank you.
Tell me the story about that song, because I believe it was originally recorded by Johnny Rivers.
That's right.
Is that right?
Well, it was originally written for Paul Peterson. It's a song with a checkered past, and a lot of people recorded it. Pat Boone recorded it.
In fact, I played on Pat's session of that when I was doing studio work.
And I'm not really clear on
In fact, that's where I heard it, I think, first.
what the exact first record is, but I think you heard it on Johnny's album, didn't you, Glenn?
It was that, but I that's where I first heard it, yeah, with Johnny Rivers. I saw it in Studio 3 there at
Western
United.
Western Recorders.
Was it
yeah.
Western?
Western 3, yeah.
Western 3, and it said, by the time I get to Phoenix, I didn't know if it was the Flight of the Phoenix, the bird, or if it was Phoenix the town, or that was the. I said, what? By the time I get to Phoenix, why would you want to get that Firebird in there with you, whatever it was? That's what I was thinking about at the time. But then I had cut it, and then I played on Pat Boone's session because I was still doing studio work at the same time.
And were you familiar with Jimmy as a writer at that time?
Yeah, oh yeah. From
Yeah.
that, I was started looking for his stuff, and then he, out of the blue, he came out with Wichita Lineman. It's my word.
And you've recorded a number of Jimmy's tunes over the years, and maybe we'll revisit some of those today. Songs like Galveston, Wichita Lineman,
Oh yeah.
and Highwayman.
Honey Come Back, that's one of those good ones. He couldn't find a melody, so he just talked part of it.
How did you two meet originally?
I think I asked him to do a... Char, how did we meet?
Well,
It was in a bar somewhere.
we didn't. No, we did not know each other after we had hits on the radio.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever remember, actually, I think we might have met at the 1967 Grammy Awards, because I was nominated for By the Time I Get to Phoenix for Best Song, and I know he was there, and I think he won a Grammy Award for something. And
Well, yeah, for vocal performance on Phoenix.
and I won some Grammy Awards, and so we were there for that. Well, that's a nice way to meet somebody, at the Grammy Awards. But the first time I ever remember having a conversation with Glenn was one day. We had both agreed to do. Now, this is my version of the story.
Okay.
Is that we both agreed to do a commercial for General Motors, and we showed up to do like a commercial for Chevrolet or something like that. And he was standing in there like playing with his guitar, which he's always playing with his guitar. And I came walking in, and I was Mr. Hippie, like 1967, with lots of long hair and
Up and away.
and had my yak vest on, and probably smelled pretty much like a yak at the time. And I came walking in there, and Glenn looked at me, and the very first thing Glen Campbell ever said to me is, "When you gonna get your hair cut?"
I said, when did you get your hair cut?
Oh.
Probably a good thing you heard the song before you met him, right?
Yeah.
And it was from then on. It was we were always friends, but we were always honest enough to be combative in a friendly way.
Yeah. Well, when when you see a talent that's just, as rounded as Jimmy Webb's is, as far as a songwriter, as far as a piano player, that's you pay attention to them, and because how many times in a lifetime can you run across a Jimmy Webb? I mean, they're few and far between. Once, that's exactly right, man. It's like Dionne Warwick running across Bacharach, man. It's
Well, that works for me too, because I was struggling. I had records with different people, and I had been covered by the Everly Brothers, which I always wanted, and the Supremes, and important artists. But when I found Glenn, I found the voice that was going to take my music to the public, and so that was why Glenn looms as the most important figure in my life as a musician.
Who was it? Love Hurts? Love Hurts.
That's Boodle O'Brien.
Boodle O'Brien. I always thought you wrote that song.
I wish I did write that.
I'd like to take credit for that, I'm sure.
That was the Everly Brothers, yeah.
Well, your careers have been so intertwined over the years, and now you've come full circle. Here you are together in this room, and you're actually in New York City.
Yes.
As part of an extended run at Feinstein's Supper Club at the Regency Hotel. And you actually did a run there, I believe it was 5 years ago, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time that the two of you had actually performed together on stage for a live audience.
Yeah, that's right.
And what is the occasion of revisiting? Was it just time to give it another shot, or get back together and have some fun?
Yeah, get back together, have some fun, run over some stuff, because I really seriously want to do an album with Jimmy, some of his new stuff, and we're going to see how that goes this trip, and maybe record some stuff, or so listen back and see how it works out that way. And I think raw is pretty good.
Well, Jimmy's got a new record coming out in August, Twilight of the Renegades, coming out on the Sanctuary record label.
Oh, really?
Well, that record is out in England, and I've been over there and played a couple of gigs, and really I kind of garnered the title for that album, Twilight of the Renegades, from my relationship with some characters in my life, and Glenn is one of those characters. I say that with all. I have nothing but affection for Renegades, and I think that we're kind of losing our current crop of iconic, legendary Renegades, which kind of saddens me. Among those that I've lost in my that we've lost recently are Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and for me personally, Richard Harris, who was like one of the great madmen of all time.
Right, who recorded your song MacArthur Park.
It's interesting. Waylon Jennings recorded MacArthur Park 3 times. He recorded it once by himself, once with the Kimberleys, and once with Willie on an album called WW2. So Waylon and I always had a rapport, and I tell you, I miss him. I cannot tell you how I miss Waylon Jennings.
Well, we keep Waylon alive here in the Roadhouse, and of course all the rebels and renegades over in outlaw country.
That's a good thing.
I looked out my door in Phoenix one day and I heard this honking horn go whack, whack, and it was one of the buses that went from like Nogales down into Mexico. It was yellow and pink, and Merle had Waylon had just bought it, and he drove it up there. That place I lived there is the Biltmore. Here he come down there with that bus. It was like a 1950-something bus, and here he come down through there, and it was pink and blue. And that's Waylon. That wasn't over 6-7 years ago.
Were you
he turned some heads at the Biltmore.
Do you recall the days when Waylon was based in Phoenix and he was playing at JD's? Did you?
Yeah.
Do you remember those days?
Oh gosh, yes. Not when this was after but he still went back and played JD's then, and Waylon was just an awesome talent, man.
Phenomenal, great vocalist, songwriter, great guitarist as well. He had a very unique technique. And there's a song actually that is associated with some of these people you just mentioned: Waylon, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Christopherson. Right. Actually formed a bit of a super group. And it was all based around one of Jimmy's songs, which you actually were the first to record, and I understand actually pitched it to Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Capitol wouldn't release it as a single for me. And
We're talking about the song "The Highwayman," of course.
They wouldn't release mine as a single, so I told them to go to hell. It was a little more explanatory than that, because the guy really ticked me off, man. I had finished Highwayman, and here's one, and he had heard. He said, "No," he said, "that's not really what we have in mind for you. The new regime at Capitol, you know." And they played me something by the Knack. I think it was My Sharona, and I just thought, yeah. And I looked the guy right in the eye, and I said, "But Highwayman." He said, "No, that ain't the direction we have for you." And I said, "Well, I know you." I really, he made me so mad. I just went. I left Capitol, and I haven't been back since.
And you went on and released the record later on, but you also were responsible for pitching it.
All they did was they printed up 10,000 copies, which was mandatory, and that was it, of Highwayman. And it was, I was so, for Jimmy's sake, I was just so glad that I went back to Nashville and played rhythm on the record,
on the Highwayman record.
Yeah. I wanted just for Jimmy's sake. Of course, there was a little revenge factor there. I was probably adding in.
Now, were they already thinking about doing a project together with those four guys? And they didn't have a name for it yet.
Jimmy Bowen, he and I can't think of the guy's name. One of the old session guys around there, the Ranger. I can't think of his name, but they're the ones that put in. In fact, I laid down because. They went in the session. They didn't know the song Highwayman. I don't think, because I put a work track on the vocal a vocal work track on it for them.
It's great the way they were able to break up the verses, though. It's almost like it was written for four voices.
Exactly.
Uncanny.
Yeah.
Really uncanny.
The next voice is tells us. The first voice tells that story great. The second voice tells us that story great. And it just built on. And then when Cash comes in, it's like, bang. Chris, I was a sailor. You know. I was born upon the tide. It's a great song. That's incredible.
Do you think I could get the two of you to do it here today?
What key is that in, Jimmy?
C minor.
C minor. Hey, let me show you how quick I can do that. I was a highwayman, along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. They finally hung me in the spring of 25. But I am still alive. I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide, and with the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner around the Horn of Mexico. I went aloft to furl the mainsail in a blow. And when the yards gave way, they say that I got killed. But I am living still. Perhaps I always will, I don't know. I was a dam builder, across the rivers deep and wide, with sword and pistol by my side. A place called Boulder on the Wide Bottom. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound. I am still around. Guess I'll always be around. And around, and around, and around. Da-da-ba-da. I fly starship across the universe divide, and when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps
perhaps I may become a highwayman again. Or I may simply be a single drop of rain, but I will remain, and I'll be back again, and again, and again, and again, and again.
Oh, it's just magic to have the two of you here together in the Roadhouse. Glen Campbell and songwriter Jimmy Webb trading verses on the Highwayman.
We can dig a big hole for ourselves, and all of a sudden the top comes open and everything turns out right.
It's always